Hi there, Duke fans. Episode 684 of the DBR podcast, the Duke Basketball Roundup. Jason Evans here for you. I'm going to go ahead and say right away that I had expected Donald Wine to be with me right now. I don't know what's happened to poor Donald. The Lions, his beloved Lions, lost last night. He may just be in such a deep funk that he cannot stand the notion of talking to us at this hour. But I am joined by my old partner in crime, Sam Klein, who is a Boston resident, was at the BC game last night. Sam, we get you maybe a half dozen times a season on here. How you doing, my friend?
Great. How are you?
No complaints at all. I got to watch.
Wonderful.
I got to watch the Blue Devils absolutely pummel Boston College after the game kind of looked close for a little while, and then it was just like I think I don't know what it's going to take for Duke to lose to one of these middling to bad ACC teams. I think we probably won't, but I feel like you kind of saw in this game that there's such a gulf of talent and skill and all this other stuff that even if Duke sort of brings their C game or D game, they're going to beat a lot of these teams by 20 plus points.
Yeah, it was I don't know if I told you guys this before the game. I knew that I was going. I was in the press area for DBR yesterday, which was great, and thank you for allowing me to continue to take advantage of that, especially because it's nice to come back and talk on the show and everything. The thing that I said before the game that I was worried about is that Duke has been so dominant the last couple of games, and BC, no matter how you slice it, is if they're not the worst team in the ACC, they're one of the two worst teams in the ACC.
Yeah,
and
it's them in Miami.
And so there's just as you said, there's very little way to imagine Duke losing to a team like that. Just if you're one of the very best teams in the country, even if you're playing on the road, that's about as good as BC can expect to do, or that any team that's ranked in the 200s is going to be able to do against Duke. And yet Duke came out kind of sleepy at the beginning of the game. I don't know if you could tell this on TV, but the crowd was fired up, and predominantly for BC. I'm sure that there were a lot of folks there who were wearing Duke shirts because they're Mainers, just there to support Cooper Flagg. But at the beginning of the game, you mostly heard from the Boston College student section. They had the overrated cheer going at Cooper, which made no sense, and then he proceeded to score 28 points and make it look fairly easy. So the student section was mostly empty with about 10 minutes left in the game. But at the beginning of the game, they were fired up. They were excited. I imagine this is how it is for every ACC team when Duke comes in, especially this year where Duke is the only really top tier team in the conference. When you look nationally, and so Boston College gave it some good effort. I know we'll talk a little bit in the I guess it's in the bad about how much Chad Venning was able to dominate Duke inside and what a night
We'll
he
get
had.
to that.
But overall, I think the impression was that even in a game where Duke comes in sort of sleepwalking for a few minutes, there's only so much that a team like Boston College can do to pull away.
Yeah. All right. So let's start our official recap with the headlines. I'll give you a few that we got a number of them into the DBR podcast, dbrpodcast@gmail.com inbox. Bobby Weinbarger, Duke uses strong second half to grind BC to powder. I got a number of BC powder headache jokes and I thought that was a pretty good one. Josh Levinson gave us something that rhymes a little bit. He said, Coop came to play, although it wasn't Con's day, and the Devils walk away winners in Conti. Jared Strauss, Duke plays worst game of season, wins by 25. I could not agree more, Jared. I think that's hysterical. Duke just was not all that great in this game, and they still just walked away with it. Jeffrey Lamb gave us this one. Actually, wait, I'm going to save that one. There's another one I'm going to do first, and then I'll get to Jeffrey's. Mark Slavic. Duke clips the wings of the Eagles as defense, dunks, and dimes dominate BC. I think that Mark wrote that to try and force me to fumble over my own words as I read it. It was not easy. Now I'm going to give you Jeffrey Lamb's. So, Sam, I have to ask you beforehand, are you aware of what happened in the Stanford UNC game yesterday?
I know about Jaylen Blakes.
So here is Jeffrey Lamb's headline. He said, "This is the only headline. Duke beats BC, blah, 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 blah. But Jaylen Blakes beats UNC."
And he had the Jaylen Blakes said in the post game. I know you sent this link to me, but I saw the clip of Jaylen Blakes was saying in the post game with the with the Carolina logo behind him in the Dean Dome press room that he was thinking about Austin Rivers in his hotel room the night before the game. So
Yeah, and he also, I love this. He also said, he goes, "I've still got Duke blood in me." And then he goes, "GTHC, go to hell, Carolina, go to hell." Oh, that was just, oh, Jaylen Blakes. I'm going to say it right now. I mean, look, we have the Stanford game coming up in a few weeks. If the Crazies don't give Jaylen Blakes a 30-second or more, 30 plus seconds of a standing ovation, I will be extremely disappointed. There should be no more beloved rival player, player to come into Cameron on the opposing team in history than Jaylen Blakes, a guy who gave it all to Duke for several years, and now is thriving at Stanford and just absolute dagger to the heart of the hated Tar Heels. Weren't we supposed to be talking about the BC game? Sorry.
we can. You tell me how much more we need to talk about it.
Yeah, no, we need to talk about it. Let me start with a couple numbers about Duke before we get specifically into the good. Duke's now back to being number one in Ken Palm. We've been number two a few days ago. We're now back to number one. Our Ken Palm numbers are getting to be ridiculous. Number three on offense, number two on defense. I've talked so much about how this team is a defensive juggernaut and that Shire has focus on the defense. Lately, this team has been ridiculous on offense. Cooper Flagg looks virtually unstoppable at times. It's worth noting there is no other team in the country ranked in the top 10 on offense and defense, and Duke is ranked in the top five in each, top three in each. Duke is currently on a 12-game win streak. That is the longest win streak in the land, the longest win streak for a Duke team since 2015. Sam, do you remember what happened in 2015?
Well, we started doing the podcast. Is that the
Yes.
most important thing that happened that year for Duke?
Yeah, I think there was also a little national
I
title that
think
happened.
there was a national title. Yeah, if I remember, it's hazy, but yes.
As I continue my march through the numbers, Duke is now 5-0 on the road this season. The first time that's happened since Zion and RJ and company started out 7-0 in road games. And Duke has won 6 of 8 ACC games, 6 of the 8 games by 20 plus points. Wait, Sam, I have something just in. Donald Wine has joined us. Donald just called in. So we're going to let him join the podcast now.
Hi.
Dude, we started without you. Sorry.
No, that's good. Apologies. The scheduling of this weekend was a little off. I'm on the West Coast. The Lions game was on the same time as the Duke game. I was able to watch some of it, kind of going back and forth between TVs where I was. But I'm glad you guys are getting started. And Sam, it's great to see you.
Hey, Donald, nice to see you.
Hope you had fun at the game yesterday.
I was gonna, you guys continue with the conversation about the game. Donald, we were just saying, Jason had gone through the headlines and he was going through a few numbers about how good Duke is right now at
Yeah.
this point in the season.
Are
Yeah,
you talking Ken Pom numbers? Because
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I saw those.
very small numbers, very
Right,
small
exactly.
numbers.
Yes.
Yeah, Sam, you love to ask us what Duke's defensive Ken Palm number will be at the end of the season. That's one of the big stat game numbers. Did any of us have this team in the top two or three? I think we were close, but
No. And
No.
and what's incredible about it is that John Shire is getting this team to play defense in a way that I'm not sure. Like we've had Duke teams that have been ranked this high defensively. I don't think we've had a Duke team that plays defense the way that this team does. Like doing so much of denying whatever the opposing offense is trying to do. Take it as it is that it's BC and not a much better team, but just incredible that they're able to do that. And I'll get to this a little more at how amazing this is to see with the amount of depth that Shire is using and not having Malik Brown available, for the last week or so, and having to adjust a little bit because Brown is a big driver of the quality of this defense. He goes down and Duke just keeps on rolling. Patrick Gongba doesn't look stupid out there, even though he's played limited minutes. Like all these guys, even going deep onto the bench, seem to be pulling their weight with a lot of freshmen.
Can you imagine what the practices are like for this team? That you're
Very painful. I imagine very painful.
you're practicing against this defense all the time. It does. I agree with you. It goes 10 plus deep, and I imagine that when we get to games, it's just like, I'm only playing an opposing team's starters. This is really easy. If you're if you're one of the subs for if you're Patrick Gongba, or Isaiah Evans, you must be like, oh man, this is a piece of cake playing against normal human beings as opposed to Sion, Tyrese, Common, and Cooper.
I look at this, the Kim Pom ratings, right? The fact that we're the only team in the country that is top 10 in both offense and defense. And you
Top
kind
five,
of,
dude. We're top three in both.
no, I didn't stutter. We're the only ones in the top 10
Yeah, I already
in both
mentioned
of
that.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But the idea that, you know, this team is becoming better. We kind of said this at the beginning of the season that, hey, we may have some growing pains, we may catch a couple L's here and there, we may have some things that we need to work on, but as this team starts to continue to build as a group, we get to see the fruits of that labor. And I think, you mentioned it, Sam, the fact that Gongba was out there and he didn't look like this kid who just showed up from PVI and walked onto the court. That is a process that has taken well over a year. This time last year, he was on the bench at PVI because he was hurt and he had a procedure to keep him out for the rest of that season. So if you think about it, he's had about a season and a half of basketball to catch up on. And the fact that it's taken a little bit longer for him to get acclimated to life in college, life as a college basketball player, how hard it is on the court, the intensity of the game, and have that game slow down for him as opposed to everybody else where they've had that, extra year to kind of get acclimated and even the summer to catch up on stuff. So I'm really appreciative of the fact that he has stuck it out. And it sucks that Malik Brown is the reason, being out is the reason why he gets this opportunity. But this is about taking advantage of an opportunity when it presents yourself. And now when Malik Brown comes back, we have an even stronger front court because now we have guys that we can rely on in a pinch if there's foul trouble or things like that.
And Donald, you mentioned the growing pains. I saw an interesting thread on Twitter last night from Sam Vecini, who pointed out that one of the things that we should give John Shire a lot of credit for is that early in the season, when Duke took a couple losses that were all due to late game execution, it was mostly on Shire saying, I know what the best version of my team is going to be. It's going to be Cooper Flagg being ball dominant at the end of the games. It's Con Knipple being a major factor on offense, but at both ends of the court and letting them play through those problems. And now you're seeing the investment paying off for Shire because Flagg looks totally unflappable. Granted, it's in a game where it's not like there was anything interesting going on late in the game, but that he and Knipple can both be coming off the bench, going to the bench, coming back on the bench, like making all these rotations, playing with different guys. It's not just that you make the transition to playing at the college level and playing guys who are bigger and stronger and all that. It's also that you're playing with all these new teammates and you're learning how they all work together. And every time you look down at the court at Duke, it feels like there's a different set of five guys on there. And it's like, oh, now they've got this rotation. Now they're playing with two bigs. Now they're functionally playing with no bigs, or like Cooper Flagg is the only big out there and he's not even really a big. And it seems like the team just rolls with it. The defense keeps being really effective. There's always three or four offensive weapons, no matter which rotation Shire has out there. So it really, I can't say enough about how impressive it is that Shire sort of had that vision and that it does seem so far to be paying off.
Guys, let's as we continue in the good, let's talk about Cooper Flagg specifically. I'm going to give you the numbers on him. Ho hum, 28 points on 14 field goals. His efficiency is just ridiculous. It's because he gets to the free throw line a lot that his efficiency is just off the charts. He fills up the box score, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, barely misses that 10-5-5 game. 2 steals, 2 blocks. After a little bit of a slow start, I kid you not, I'm not being hyperbolic when I say it felt like he could do whatever he wanted out there. And Sam, I'd be really interested in getting, your take on that in the arena because, yeah, I mean, he had some nerves early on playing in front of hundreds, hundreds of family and friends, but he just looks unflappable, in control the whole time. Let me give you really quick his ACC numbers, and then Sam go. I mean, teams just don't have an answer for his combination of athleticism and skill. He's hitting 87% from the free throw line in ACC play. He's hitting 62% of his 2-point shots in ACC play. There's no answer for him. Teams just don't know what, and they just send him to the free throw line again and again and again because they can't stop him otherwise.
So you mentioned the crowd last night and how many people were there to support him. I don't know how much you could tell this on the broadcast. I assume that they brought it up that Flagg got I think he was whistled for 4 fouls last night, and at least 2 of them were like pretty ticky-tacky fouls. So I don't know if that was the refs playing him tight or they were playing the whole game tight. There were a lot of foul calls last night. And he seemed to just shake some of those off. Like he was called for a technical, or he was called for 1 foul that was
Wait. I want to put the technical aside for a moment. We're going to talk about that later.
only because so he got called for that, and it was so ridiculous. And yet, in the moment when I assume they zoomed in on him, I was looking at him when they called it. He had this moment where he got upset about, they made this call, and then I don't remember which of his teammates it was, came over and was like, "You're fine," and he was like, "You know what? I am fine. This is like a stupid thing for me to be worrying." Like he took such a like mature approach to that moment where he was like, "Who cares? I got called for a technical and they get 2 free throws. I'm so much better than everyone else. I don't care."
I think also too, right? He's playing in front of his home crowd, right? Essentially,
Yeah.
they had the article about the number of Maine people who didn't even know Cooper Flagg, but they know that he represents Maine, and they traveled down, hour and a half, whatever they came from, to represent and kind of play
Donald,
for him.
it's 3 hours, but there were still hundreds of them there.
No,
To his hometown, yeah, it's
to
far
his
away.
hometown, yes. But I'm talking about there were people who came from all over Maine that don't know Cooper Flagg, that are not from Newport, that are just like, that guy represents us. And so this is the only chance I have to see this guy play before, it costs a little bit more because he's playing the Celtics. And so I think the idea is that he wanted to put on a show, and despite he felt a little tight, early on, and that's, something that you can expect when you're playing in front of so many people, that you want to, give them a good show. But he settled into that very quickly, and I think the camaraderie that all of his teammates had with each other, the fact that, again, you saw that he was about to kind of snap at a bogus technical foul, at least on my end, right? Because I didn't have audio to get the explanation. But at the same time, you had guys coming over very quickly, be like, "Next play, let's go. You're good. Don't worry about it. Prove it on the next play." And sure enough, the next play and the play after that, or play after that, he makes you just so bewildered that some kid that is just now 18 years old can be so efficient, so mature about all of these different situations, and continue to take the best shot of every single team that faces him, despite the fact that he is a freshman that is in his 3rd month of basketball. That is the incredible part, and that's why it feels historic what we're seeing from Cooper Flagg and from this team, because the team has bought into it, and they all back each other up, and Cooper backs his teammates up. So I'm liking what I'm seeing from him, and it's hard to play in front of your fans, in front of your friends, in front of your family, and really impress. But sure enough, just add that to the list of things that Cooper Flagg has done.
All right, so I was going to save it for the bad, but let's just do it now because we've talked about it so much. The technical called on Cooper Flagg, and I know you guys are both wondering what happened. There's a guy on Twitter, J Man's Takes.
J-Man's takes. Yep.
Man, I mean, he is gold, gold, gold. He isolated a little bit of audio, and what happens is as Cooper goes up to block the shot, and Cooper just absolutely swallows this dude's shot. Cooper yells, "Folks, cover your children's ears." He yells, "Give me that shit." Um, which I think is quite appropriate for that moment. And the refs immediately call a technical on him. And what J-Man found was on the very next play, the very next possession, Isaiah Evans goes baseline and gets his shot blocked. And the BC defender who blocks his shot also yells, "Give me that shit." and the refs don't say anything. The refs also, by the way, didn't say anything when Isaiah Evans was like giving stuff to the crowd left and right the entire game, which I love. Let these can we can we please just let these players play a little bit? Give me that shit isn't going to start a fight. It isn't like taunting. It is just talking while you're on the floor because you know you can talk. I
Also,
can't.
if you are the victim of gimme that shit, you're not going to do anything. You're
Yeah,
If you're
just
the
going to
victim,
hang your head and walk away.
exactly.
if you're the victim of that, dbrpodcast@gmail.com, you may be entitled to compensation.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
but look, let me tell you something. I know ball. I've played ball. I've played ball with some of the best and brightest out there. That has been said on every single court, on
It's
every single
absurd.
day
Yeah.
since I've been born. That is not something new. Like you said, that happen. It's like holding in football. It happens every play. It's just a matter of whether the referee decides to call it or not. But the idea that that is what, again, and again, that's something where you know that's something you do in every play. There's a whole thing on YouTube of Carmelo Anthony throughout his career grabbing rebounds and telling everybody to get up out of here, right? But not using those words. They have a whole thread on that. It's like a 15-minute long video of him doing that on every single rebound in his career.
I've seen
That
it.
is yeah, it's funny because you're like it's like almost comical because you think that his teammates by this point would know. But it's funny that that was what got it technical because that is said on every single court, every single game, almost every single play. And that's why, again, he had that probably bewildered look on his face. And why he's like, wait, we're doing this, we're calling this. And his teammates, again, were able to step in and say, we got you, dog. Like we know you didn't do anything wrong. So let's just, get that out of your mind, give them their 2 points, and let's keep going.
All right, let's continue on a couple more things in the good. I wanted to cite Duke's ball handling. Just one turnover in the entire first half. We were struggling in the first half to get the ball in the hoop. We were, however, not struggling to hold on to the ball, and that's really important. It allowed Duke to have enough field goal attempts that we were able to comfortably have at least a small lead at halftime because we didn't commit any turnovers in the first half. More turnovers in the second half, but we shot a lot better in the second half, and we slowed them down significantly. And as a result, forget about it. Duke had this game easily. I also wanted to cite Tyrese Proctor. When Cooper started slow, when Con Knipple was basically a non-factor throughout this whole game, Reese was there the whole time. He scored 10 of Duke's first 26 points in this contest to keep us in it for a while. He ended up with 20 points on 12 shots. Nice efficiency for a guard. He took 5 2-point shots, by the way, which is the most he's had in a game since the George Mason game like a month ago. And I thought he and Sion James did a great job keeping Donald Hand Jr. from ever getting on track, keeping the guards for BC from being comfortable at any point in the entire game. Those two guys really cut the head off the snake, so to speak, when it came to BC's offensive attack.
It was a re-show, to be blunt, for the first like 10 minutes of the game. And I enjoyed it because we've talked in the show, Jason, about the fact that Tyrese didn't have a great couple of weeks by his standards. So for him to kind of rebound and get that and get 20 points and be efficient while doing it and really keeping this team in within reach of striking, knowing that his teammates were going to recover from the slow start and and take over. I thought that was great. The other thing, Jason, that you mentioned, this is something that I need further research on, but there's something that I've noticed as a trend. You mentioned the field goal attempts, and that's a big stat of yours. You want to try and attempt more shots than the other team because that gives you more chances to score. This is at least the fourth game that I have noticed that we have had more field goal attempts than the other team, and the number of shots, right, that we had more than the other team, we had more makes as well, or we had or we had the same number of threes. So like there was this game right here, we had 8 more field goal attempts and we made 8 more baskets. So if you're shooting 100% on those extra shots more than your team, it is very difficult to lose a basketball game. It is very difficult for another team to catch up. It speaks to our efficiency on offense, and we just talked about that, but it also speaks to the fact that we are getting opportunities and we're not, wasting them. If you waste the opportunity, it doesn't matter how many free field goal attempts you have more than the other team. But the fact is, we're taking advantage of those opportunities, and that is what's keeping teams, at bay. And even if with a slow start, when we catch up and we make more shots than they do, we're going to win a lot of basketball games. So I'm liking the fact that we're not wasting any advantages that we may have over an opponent.
As we get to a couple other players, I wanted to mention Sion James. quiet little 6 assists, 7 rebounds, 6 point game. Come on, Sion, man. Give me 10 points, baby, and you'll get a 10-5-5. I promise it's there for you. And Sam, I know you want to talk about Isaiah Evans. What a glorious gunner Isaiah is. You know, Cooper shoots a little tiny bit more than Slim does, but it's close. Isaiah comes in the game, it's just firing left and right. In this game, 16 points in 21 minutes, 4 of 9 on his threes. And did you see his plus minus? In 21 minutes played, Isaiah Evans was plus 27. That's a ridiculous number. Sam, give me more on Slim.
Donald, I think referenced this earlier that we were talking about Patrick Gongba and how it's been a delayed ramp up for him to become part of the rotation here due to the injuries and everything. Isaiah Evans not exactly in that boat, but more just like he didn't have there's only so much room in 40 minutes for guys to play early in the season, and he did not get a lot of burn. And clearly now he's a key part of the rotation here, and not just that, but he brings the attitude of an experienced player. And I loved you guys mentioned he was like John at the fans and managed to not do it enough to tick off the refs enough to give him a technical. But boy, was he fired up. And in a crowd that like he should otherwise like not care about. It's not like he's the star of the team. He's not Cooper Flagg. He's not from here, et cetera, et cetera. But I love how fired up he is when he comes onto the court. Of course, it turns out he's a great shooter. I think we anticipated that before the season. I'm so impressed with, again, to the same topic we're talking about with the rest of the team, how smart he is on defense and how disruptive he is in the perimeter. Obviously, some of that comes from his length, but being that young and being able to make an impact at that end of the court is extremely impressive. On top of how great he is as a shooter and how ready he is to get that shot, even though every time he's on the court, it's not like he's the top option, right? He's on the court with Cooper Flagg. He's on the court with Tyrese Proctor, who was having, like you said, a great game yesterday. So there was a lot to celebrate last night, but I think that Isaiah Evans' emergence is pretty cool. And Jason, it's so nice for you to have a nephew who's making such an impact at Duke.
I love this kid. I love the kid, right? Like the idea, and we need some of that, right? When back in the day, right, when everyone would say, oh, Duke was always just like, they're so cocky and stuff like that. We never were, right? But when you walk into a gym and everyone is giving you their best effort as a fan, right? And we know what we're talking about here with regards to words. It's very hard to just sit there and know that anything you say in response can and will be used against you in the court of public opinion.
Wait, did you guys almost see Isaiah Evans slap the floor last night? I don't know if they caught this on camera. He started clapping really hard after he made one of his threes in the second half. And then it was when he was like yelling at one of the fans. He came back on defense and he was like away from the ball, so I wasn't sure if it showed up on TV, but he made like 3 or 4 very big claps where he was in the deep defensive stance. And I don't know if this is the case. I didn't get to ask him afterwards, but I almost feel like he sort of looked to the side to be like, is anybody else going to do this with me? Like I am in this thing.
But honestly, like that's the new phrase, right? Like the slapping the floor thing may be days gone by, but the clapping in that defensive pose as if to say like, you ain't ish. That is what he was doing at that moment. He does that in a lot of possessions.
Those claps were loud.
Yeah,
I was sitting all the way at the top of the arena, and I don't know how many, 3 or 4 of them that he made, but you could hear them in the room. It was incredible.
Yeah, it's so funny, but also like again, like Duke, we're always used to having our thing. We have to act above, right, and all this thing. But there's something to be said about a guy who's like, hey, if you're gonna give it to me, I'm going to hit these threes, and I'm going to give it right back to you. You know who did it last year? Jeremy Kane would do that a lot, right? He'd be the one that under the chat would say, "Oh, you're making fun of my fingernails, right? You're making fun of my nail polish." Well, the guy with the nail polish just dropped 30 on you. Live with that, right? And it'd be in a nice, respectful sort of way, but it was enough to say, "Hey, I ain't taking this from you. I don't have to, and I'm going to back it up because what are you going to do? You can't come on the court and shoot 30, but I can, and I'm going to bust your team in the process." That's Isaiah Evans. That is what Isaiah Evans was doing in high school. That's what he was doing in the McDonald's All-America game when he was talking smack to all the UNC guys that were on the team about how it was going to be a long year for him. You kind of need a little bit of that because the idea is this team it feels so together that they're gonna back him up with that, right? They're not gonna let him go out on a limb there. If he had slapped the floor, Sam, who's to say that the other guys wouldn't? Maybe they didn't see him at the time, but again, those claps that they do, that is a new way of saying, hey, this defensive stop is coming, and now is time to demoralize you. This is what is about to happen.
All right, I got a little Isaiah story here from the game, and it connects to Big Pat. And I wanted to, before we get done with the good, I wanted to mention what a fine job I thought Patrick Gongba did. I was the one who said you wouldn't see him playing 10 plus minutes. Common gets in foul trouble, and Pat plays 14 minutes in this game. I thought his defense was nice. I thought he really seemed connected on offense. To me, that was the biggest thing. He had that very nice finish on that first half layup on the feed from Tyrese, where, I mean, that was not an easy catch or an easy layup, and he made that. And he had the really excellent feed to a cutting Cooper Flagg for a slam dunk after Patrick had pulled down an offensive rebound toward the end of the first half. And then he had that gorgeous lob from Caleb Foster, and that's what I wanted to mention. So, first of all, props to Cephas. Watch the replay of that play, because Cephas throws the pass one-handed. He's dribbling, and suddenly, rather than taking a dribble, he shifts his hand and throws the pass one-handed, which is not easy to do. And Pat grabs it and slams it through. But here's the reason I want people to look at that play. Look at the corner. Isaiah Evans is standing in the corner out there where he should be to potentially take a three-pointer. As Patrick goes up to get that slam, Isaiah Evans elevates. He is in the air. He is like symbiotically linked to Patrick Gongba, and he spreads his legs out really wide. Isaiah is really long. I don't know. He looked like he formed an X with his body. It's crazy. He is so high in the air celebrating this big moment for two of his teammates. It shows you how damn excited he is to be out there, to be playing with these guys, to be a part of all of this. It's just great, great stuff.
It's infectious. That's basically what it is. It rubs off on the team, and those momentum points that you really need, especially when you're on the road. That kind of fun, right? The idea that you can celebrate your teammates the way that they do. The fact that they're all but receiving bench technicals whenever Spencer Hubbard does an assist or makes a three, right? Like you make it where it's fun to play. You celebrate each other's successes. That way you're there through the tough times. And when you know that you're down, right? Early in the game, when you have a slow start, you can look at your bench, you can look at the other guys on the floor, and you know that they're behind you to make a play. And when they celebrate that play, it just feeds the momentum that they need to get the job done.
Yeah, Donald, I know you have to run, so give me a quick something before we let you go.
Yeah, so I think in general, right, I really commend the team. For the first time in what feels like a couple of weeks, we had a pretty slow start to this game, and we were able to kind of remember what it was like to do that every single game and what we needed to do to kind of get back on track. And when we took the lead, it felt like, again, it was a slow burn when we took the lead, but you kind of look over and you're like, oh, we just took the lead. We're up 1, we're up 2, we're up 23. Like it very much turned into, this is what we're doing. We're Duke basketball. Let's be who we are. And at the end of the day, very few teams in this country can beat us if we be who we are. And that's what they did. I really appreciate that. And the last thing I have, guys, this has nothing to do with this game. I don't know if you're going to cover this, but I just want to say on this pod, I very much love Jaylen Blakes. Go to hell, Carolina. Go to hell. That will never die, even if he's in a different uniform. God bless that man.
Yeah, again, before you came on, we talked about that a little bit as well.
Good.
Don't worry.
All right, with that, we're going to say goodbye to Donald. Sam and I will be back on the other side. We'll be talking a little bit of gambling, how Mason Gillis made Duke bettors very, very happy. That story in just a moment. All right, Duke fans, from the football playoffs to college and pro basketball to the rush of hockey, it is all happening this winter, and you can get in on all the action of the sports you love at DraftKings Sportsbook.
Lots of sports, Jason. My TV stays glued to just about every sporting event possible. And now with some of these games we watch, we can have a little more of a rooting interest. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. So go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your picks as the sports action picks up in the new year.
Make every day game day with DraftKings Sportsbooks. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use this code, DukeBB. That code again, DukeBB, for new customers to get a $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
Are you trying to spice up your love life with your partner this winter? You know what I'm talking about. Well, Joy Mode is here to help you give that extra boost when the lights go out and that fire inside burns bright.
Joy Mode features just 4 simple, proven ingredients. No prescriptions, no doctor's visits, and a straightforward, effective solution. Simply mix the packs with water and feel the effects within 45 minutes. But it's not just about the love life. Daily use of Joy Mode boosts heart health and can help you in the gym or on the basketball court.
So, if you're looking to take your game to the next level, visit tryjoymode.com and use code DukeBB at checkout for 20% off single purchases and 30% off subscription orders. That's tryjoymode.com and use the code DukeBB for 20% off single purchases and 30% off subscription orders. Take control with Joy Mode.
All right, we're back from the break, and we want to just very quickly go through a couple of the bad things that happened in this game, and then we got a couple other things to touch on. The first one was this. Duke, as Donald mentioned a moment ago, Duke had a bit of a slow start. BC repeatedly, Sam, they repeatedly got inside to Chad Venning. In the preview, I told folks that he was a load. I think just camps out in the paint. Man, he abused man. And if you're a team looking, how do we attack this Duke team? I think maybe can we go one-on-one against man in the post? That might be something a lot of different teams try. BC led this game 18-11 with about 11 and a half minutes left. Now, Duke then outscored them by 32 points the rest of the way, 77-45 from there. But a terrible, lousy, the worst Power 5 conference team in the country, BC, had an 18-11 lead on Duke early. That has to be one of the things that we cite in the bad.
The most concerning thing for me is the way that Venning was able to dominate not just Malawach, but that when Gongba came in, I said that Gongba plays like totally serviceable defense, especially for his age. But that Venning was able to push through those guys pretty hard. I hope that that's a learning opportunity and that you can isolate that from this game, and John Shire can just, get the bigs to focus on this is what it takes to play against one, high level guy, and you can't just let him. And look, this might have been the game plan. I don't know what Shire said after the game about this. It might have been that they were like, we know that Venning is tough. If the ball gets into him, fine. It's okay. He can only do so much to beat us. He's only making twos. But hopefully it also serves as a learning opportunity, especially for Malawach, who Venning is outweighing him, but should not be outplaying him that much when Duke is on defense.
Yeah, I'll tell you another concerning thing about this game for sure was Con Knipple, who suffers through a 0 for 5 performance. Didn't hit any twos, didn't hit any threes. The really weird thing to me was that he only had 1 assist. Usually, he's had games where he's struggled a bit from the field, and usually he picks up a lot of assists. Like against Kansas, he was 0 of 8 on 3-pointers, but he had 8 assists in that game. Against Auburn, he struggled a bit from the field. He only scored a total of 6 points against Auburn, but he had 3 assists, and he was a facilitator for Duke a lot of this game. In this contest, it's just like Con just completely disappeared at times. He tried, to get in the lane, and he tried a couple different things. I'm not saying he had a terrible game, but this was a poor performance for him, and we need to see him better, especially if Duke is playing better kind of opponents. You got anything else in the bad here?
No, I think it's a good call out. It's, lucky for, I don't know if it's lucky or good planning that Knipple can have such an off night and you barely register it because Proctor's so good from the perimeter and Isaiah Evans, everyone sort of picks up the slack for everybody else. And so
Yeah.
it demonstrates how beneficial it is to have the depth. And I should say that I didn't think that his struggles on the offensive end reflected a worse performance on the defensive end. So I'm sure that
Yep.
Shire's giving him the look on the bright side pep talk after that one because they know that he's a good shooter and they know he's going to come back and be and have more of an impact in the next game up or in the coming weeks.
All right, so I'm going to get to something that's sort of connected to the bad a little bit, but also kind of good. And it starts with this last second dunk by Mason Gillis. Duke was up by 23, and we got a steal. The play naturally goes the other direction, and Gillis gets a slam dunk with just fractions of a second left on the clock to give Duke a 25-point victory. If you're someone who happens to make a few wagers every now and then you know that Duke was about a 23.5-point favorite in this game, 23.5, 24, somewhere in that kind of ballpark. So Duke had not covered prior to Mason Gillis's dunk, and they covered after the dunk. I don't think that Mason Gillis had any idea what the line on the game was. I do, however, think that perhaps Mason Gillis was dunking that ball as a bit of an FU to BC because Mason was one of several Dukies who were the victim, the recipient of some really hard fouls by BC. The officials went to the monitors numerous times to check to see if blows to the head, to the back, to other parts of the body had justified flagrant fouls. Sometimes they said yes, sometimes they said no. I'm not saying that they were necessarily right or wrong on every one of those decisions by the refs, but there's little question that BC was using their elbows and their physicality as much as possible against Duke. Jaden Hastings for BC was in full punk mode in this game. He actually, I think he tried to knock a couple dudes out. Tried to knock Cooper out. Tried to knock Mason out. He picked up 5 fouls in just 7 minutes of playing time. I want you to think about that for a minute. Dude plays 7 minutes, picks up 5 fouls, and like the officials are at the monitors like twice in his 7 minutes. That's a little bit ridiculous. I didn't like to see the refs failing to protect Duke. That's what they did again.
Must
and
have
again.
brought the old Big East refs to the old Big East arena. I don't know, but at the same time, I thought that Duke handled all of that really well, right?
Yes.
As physical as it was, the moment where Cooper Flagg gets the technical and then jumps right back up, I thought that was Duke's reaction to everything that they were getting from BC last night, and I love to see that.
Related to the refs, we got an email from Wilco, one of the best posters on the Duke Basketball Report forum, and he sent us this, and I want to read a little bit of it because I think it's worth just a quick mention. He said, "Why are these officials, these ACC officials, trying to throttle back Duke? In the name of faking parity, they are allowing way too much physical contact in these games. There's one sequence where Tyrese was struck by Hastings, by the big man where Tyrese was stuck on Hastings, the BC big man, and Hastings was putting his arm into Tyrese's back, pushing him down, so it looked like Tyrese was practically trying to tie his shoes. And Will said, I wasn't sure if Tyrese would be able to stand up straight after that. And the refs didn't call anything. They're just not interested in calling offensive fouls on the opposing team, fouls, against Duke. If you hammer the Duke players, the ACC refs appear to not care. And Wilco went on and said the league practically carried Miami to a college football playoff appearance this year with favoritism. There were a lot of people who thought that the refs were showing some favoritism toward Miami in football games this year. And Wilco says, it's our turn. I mean, BC did a forearm to the head of the presumptive player of the year, and the guy doesn't get ejected? Wilco said, protect the meal ticket, ACC. The ACC's down. Attendance is down. The only thing the ACC has going for it right now is DUKE and Cooper Flagg. Everyone wants to see the show, he said. Give him the show. Don't let him get pummeled. Do better, ACC referees. What do you think of that statement from Wilco?
I like it. I don't know that it'll resonate for anybody in the league office, but I'd certainly be in favor of it. Look, I'm there's only so many ways you can say that Duke is the only elite team that's in the conference, and it is unfortunately not even that close. I looked at it this morning, and look, this is not, I'm not trying to like put the bad jinx on or anything, but Ken Pomeroy says that there's like a greater than 1 in 4 chance that Duke goes undefeated the rest of the way in the regular season. Like that's how bad the conference is, and that's with Duke having to play one game against an actually really good opponent in Illinois in about a month. So, like go for it. I would love to see more favoritism. That being said, I don't think Duke needs it. I think that Duke is so good right now. We're basically Gonzaga this year playing in the West Coast Conference and letting the St. Mary's and the San Diego States and whoever else like nip at our heels. But Duke doesn't have another. The ACC has not put together these teams. Carolina is struggling. Nobody really looks like they're in it. So I don't know that we're getting the good treatment, but it would be nice.
I will say that if you look at Louisville's schedule, Louisville has a very, very favorable schedule the rest of the way. It is entirely possible that Duke will need to go like 19-1 or 20-0 because Louisville. You tell me Louisville's going to go 17-3 in the ACC. I'm not sure that I doubt that. Louisville's playing really well lately, and that just their schedule just is. It's worked out very nicely for them. I'm glad we have a game in hand and a tiebreaker in hand on them. All right, let's get to the player of the game. Or the play of the game, I should say, not the player of the game, the play of the game. I had a couple contenders. You go first. Let's see if you take one of my contenders.
Ooh, I am going to pick, I'm trying to remember what the timestamp was on it, but I'm going to take Malawach's first dunk. He had 2 really nice dunks, but the one where he basically just realized he had the lane open to him, and he just walked straight down the lane and was like, "If you guys are going to give this to me, like I will take it and I will make it rather violent." I think that was my play of the game.
Yeah, it was at about the 16:30 mark, 16 and a half minutes left in the first half. He was near the BC logo, and his man flew by him, and it was the least graceful dribbling you will ever see. He was not,
but he was at the rim in a hurry though.
Oh yeah, yes, definitely. I had that as one of my contenders. The other one I had with about 3 minutes and 20 seconds left in the first half. Cooper Flagg has the ball up top. It looks like a very routine play. But because Duke is playing kind of the small lineup that we have with Mason Gillis and Cooper as our 2 bigs, the BC big Jaden Hastings is guarding Cooper, and that's just not a good that's not a good matchup for BC. He doesn't have the foot speed. He doesn't have the defensive instincts to handle this. Sion James sets a decent screen that sort of takes Hastings out of the play for the moment, and that leaves Sion's man Josh Beadle to pick up Cooper. But Cooper spins, and he just spins completely around Josh Beadle for a very sweet lay-in. And Hastings, in attempting to recover on the play, fouls Cooper. And so Cooper gets a 3-point play out of it. I'm convinced that Josh Beadle on that spin, he still has no idea where Cooper Flagg is. It's just like Cooper Flagg disappeared. And he was like, what? Yeah, that guy's gone. Oh, well. And that was probably the moment, I think, where BC realized there's just nothing they can do to stop this man. I believe that if Cooper had wanted to score 40 in this game, if Duke had needed him to score 40, he would have. He's just like, yeah, well, whatever. I'll let my teammates do a little bit of the work. He didn't play heavy minutes. He is, at least against a team as bad as BC, he's just on a different level than everybody else.
I like the pick, and it obviously, as we move to the player of the week pick, picking one of Malawach's dunks against all the great plays that Flagg had probably undersells how good Cooper Flagg was again this week.
Yeah, yes. I think I speak for both of us, Sam, when I say that Cooper Flagg is the player of the week. I don't know if you have any other notions. I for a moment, like on, midweek, I was like, oh, this week I can probably pick Con Knipple because he had a huge game against Miami. Yes, Con will be my. Oh no, Con has 0 points against BC. And then if you look at the BC game, you go, Tyrese Proctor carried Duke early. 20-point game, really nice performance by him. And then you look back at what he had 0 points against Miami. So
So it's Cooper Flagg by default, and it is totally fine for him to continue having the best week of anyone on the team for the rest of the season because he is that good.
yeah, I mean, by default, he does have 41 points on the week to go with 10 assists and what is it? 12 the numbers are just ridiculous, and the blocks and everything else. He's just
Is he still since you have the stats up, is he still leading the team in every major statistical category?
I don't have all the stats to see that, but the
Okay.
answer is yes. The answer is yes. I don't think there's anything where it's really all that close. I need to look and see, where could you fall down on something? I just
The summary of the stats game will be fun.
Cooper Flag, Cooper Flag, Cooper Flag.
It's just
Cooper
Cooper Flag, Cooper Flag, Cooper Flag.
Exactly. All right.
Why
with
were
that,
we trying to overthink this?
Yeah, right. Exactly. We're all idiots. All right. With that, we're going to wrap it up here on the latest edition of the DBR podcast. As always, folks, you are welcome to write to us. Tell us what you think. dbrpodcast@gmail.com. That is how you reach us. Sam Klein, thank you very much for joining us. I know we
Always
have
my pleasure.
yeah, we've got kind of a slow week. There's no midweek game this week, but I'm going to tease you right now, folks. I've got a couple different ideas of some fun interview guests, one of whom has texted me a few times that he wants to be on the show. I think we're going to have him on. Folks, if you think the official score is a problem, you're about to talk to the official scorer. We're going to have that as a guest on the DBR podcast coming up in the next few days. Until then, for the absent, well, now absent, he was here for a little while, Donald. For the present, Sam Klein, I'm Jason Evans, and this is the Duke Band playing us out and taking us home.
See ya. Parking pass, like your parking pass is like at this parking garage. You just have to like tell them your name when you drive in. I was like, all right, sure. Thank you. I got in, I drove to the garage and it was like, it was crowded. I got there like half an hour before the game. And so there's like all this traffic and stuff, and I'm driving into the garage, which is clearly like, the equivalent of like the Iron Duke's garage. And the garage attendant like didn't ask me my name or anything. She just saw that I like had some stickers on my window and I have like a parking pass for work that's like hanging from my mirror, and she just like saw a bunch of stickers on my. She's like, she just waved me through. She's like, "Oh, you look official." So I was like, "No, the security here is terrible." So, and then my seat was like in the crow's nest, like as high as you can go, because they didn't give me like a floor seat because whatever, we're DBR, we're not the News and Observer or whatever. So,
I mean, were there lots of other media up there?
there was, I mean, they have like. So if it was like Cameron, the whole band section is where the media tables are, and those were all full. And then there were a bunch of people upstairs, like the people from there were two people from the Chronicle there who were also upstairs. I saw a couple other. They didn't quite have all the auxiliary boxes full, but that was clearly where they put the less important media. So
I mean, you didn't hear it on the broadcast. On the broadcast, they were talking about the fact that this was such a huge deal for the state of Maine, like for Cooper to be up in their vicinity.
And it's not even like it's still like a couple hours away from where he's from.
Right. But they said that on the ESPN graphic, it was like 150, people are here at this game from his hometown, and then there was like this little quote that said, "Every media outlet in Maine has requested a credential."
Which is probably why they did the double check on me.
Yeah.
Because I only submitted the credential like a little over a week ago.
Right.
And he was like, "Are we sure that we need this person here?" So maybe that was it. It was like all the like local TV and stuff from Maine was there.